Hi, so for this research project, I focused on the effectiveness of software design patterns, mostly based off of an article from IEEE. So to first define what design patterns are, this is a quote from Geeks from Geeks and says that design patterns are the best practices adopted by software developers to address and provide a solution or a template to recurring design problems. So, though widely adopted and used by experienced developers for design patterns to be effective in serving their intended purpose of knowledge transfer, these solutions to recurring problems, less experienced developers would have to be able to adopt these patterns and their use lead to successful designs. That's kind of the metric for design pattern success that the article defined. The authors realized that the widespread acceptance of design patterns may be based on the advocacy from expert designers who may be biased by their existing knowledge schemas, and that this might not translate to inexperienced designers, which by their definition would mean that design patterns alone aren't exactly effective. They conducted a mapping study reviewing 10 formal experimental studies on object-oriented design patterns. The papers they reviewed studied various topics in design patterns ranging from subsequent code reuse, maintenance, and the development, as well as experience using them, including some evidence from case studies. So some different design patterns that were used in these studies include proxy, observer bridge, command, factory, singleton, back-aid bridge, and more. Many aim to note any potential pitfalls with the use of design patterns on complexity and debugging, software modularity, reusability, understandability, and the general advantages and disadvantages of design patterns and their results. It was found that the conclusions of their research, there wasn't a lot of benefit to prove for design patterns. Like for example, in a case study, students found it difficult to relate the patterns to specific design problems, and that sometimes implementation of patterns made it more difficult for programmers to use and understand the software. So to summarize their conclusions and kind of my reflection, they say like design patterns haven't been subjected to enough rigorous evaluation beyond minimal empirical evidence, except for their benefit relating to software maintenance, which they did find. Additionally, design patterns do not seem to help novice developers design results, and the research from this IEE article recommends additional studies to be conducted that involve more complex case studies related to specific design patterns and their rules, and observational studies that ensure the link between conclusions and reported experiences is clear. Overall, the article suggests that the use of design patterns for beginners who lack the knowledge of their limitations is not wise. I also think it's good to keep in mind that design practices aren't always a foolproof way to get a successful model or design. It's useful to consider design's limitations as it pertains to your problem. The sources reviewed in this study that I kind of went over, as well as another publication I reviewed by Walter Zimmer, agree that applying design patterns requires a fair amount of knowledge about designs themselves and their relationships with like components of your software. Additionally, I think it's good knowledge that using design patterns may take a good deal of reflection and research into the pattern and issue prior if you want the design to be successful.